There's so much that goes into getting a mine off the ground. Um, and so Kal Tire Mining Group has been part of that, and I wanna just go list off a couple. They've got their recycling program, they've got their maple program, and then the ultra repair as well. Dave, can you just touch on those? Because as we wrap up this interview, I wanna make sure we sort of unpack it.
Yeah, great. We love to talk about this because um, you said it. Corporate social responsibility is such a huge part of business these days, and there's been a lot of discussion in the last couple of years in the mining business about a circular economy, and circular economy meaning what can I use that's been used, or what can I do that's renewed? What can I do, to reduce a carbon footprint, or keep things going in that perspective. And Cal Tire has a couple of different ways that we like to participate in that space. One is recycling. The other is a maple program, and the other, then there's a couple different parts of recycling. So um, I'll start with the maple program, and then maybe go into recycling, because the maple program and it ties into recycling as well. But at Cal Tire, we've claimed for a long time our retread and repair products. They're so beneficial to the environment, but we really couldn't quantify what that meant. And I think that's really important, because us, our competitors, everyone says, oh, our retread product is great, and it really does some good. So what Cal Tire looked to do was really try to quantify what that was. So worked with chemists, rubber chemists, looked at all our records of production, those kind of things, figuring out how tires were made, and the result of that was a carbon calculator. So what we did with that carbon calculator, which is great, but a carbon calculator is still something that we just made, and someone can say, well, I don't believe it. So what Cal Tire did was went to a company called SCS Global, which is a third-party certification company on environmental. So we're actually able to say, if you retread this tire, the offset of carbon would be this much, and then you actually get an accreditation from SCS Global, so companies can use that in their reporting, in their corporate sustainability reports. I've even heard that some customers are now saying that they may be able to use that to actually get money back from carbon credits. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that. So that's part of the Maple program, and the Maple program is quantifying what good comes out of repairing and retreading tires. Where we want to take this is to the next step, is how to quantify that for ultra repair. And ultra repair, when I talked earlier about a severe injury to a tire, um, I can't get this technical about tires, but there are steel belts in the tires. I think most people know that. And once you get an injury through there, in the past, that tire was done. I mean, once you cut the cords, that was the integrity of the tire. Ultra Repair is a unique offering that we have, that the repair actually repairs the cables within the tire and puts the structural integrity back into the tire. So we're trying to figure out as well how that can be calculated into a savings, because if that tire was dead at 300 hours, that would just go into a landfill, or into a berm or something like that. The other way we're trying to look at this is from thermal conversion, and I'll talk about thermal conversion when we talk about recycling. How we can capture carbon credits by thermal conversion recycling of these tires, and also on our on-site service. Mike talked a lot about on-site service and what we do for customers. We believe that there's environmental benefits for us being on site, taking care of tires in that kind of way. So if we look at just the Maple program, and we say a 29-inch tire from a Cat 8045 underground loader, by retreading that, if the emission values of that tire might be 5.5 tons, if you retread that tire, you probably save 1 ton of carbon emissions. So if you look at that, we'd be able to say, well, that would power a 40-watt light bulb for 9 years. It would, allow a household to be powered for 31 days. Those kind of things, we can put those quantifiable things to it. But most of all, the customer would get that certification that they save this many tons of CO2. When we look at recycling, that's a little bit of a different animal where, look, there's a lot of different technologies out there right now, and I think this is a burgeoning market as well. We One section of recycling would be shredding. We have a really great working relationship with Liberty, who's a tire recycler and shredder out of Alberta and BC, where the tires, we send them, customers send the tires to us, we send them to Liberty, they shred them. They can then be repurposed into things like mulch, blast mats, rig mats, fencing, siding. There's a whole bunch of things that they can do, and that's a great thing, right? Your playgrounds, turf. I don't know if you notice in baseball when the black stuff comes up, that's recycled rubber, and that's great. Where I think people are looking, can we do more, is when that mulch is done or when that blast mat is done, can you recycle that again in that circular economy, or does it just go to a landfill? And preventing it from going into a landfill for many years is still a great premise. There's two other ways that we look at it, at least at this point, and one is devulcanization, and the other is thermal conversion. And devulcanization would be tires that have been used and are then shredded into a crumb, is what they call it, and then put into a devulcanization line. And I'm not the scientist here. So a devulcanization line takes that crumb and as it goes through the line, makes it into a rubber. It's almost like a vulcanized rubber. And then what they can do is then add that to an extruder and put that into retreads. So you're essentially using tires that used to be on, say, a giant mining tire. You can devulcanize that, you get it into the crumb, you devulcanize it, and then you can use it again on a grader tire or a loader tire, something like that. And that's a good that's a good example of a circular economy. The third stage that we have is thermal conversion, and this is where we have actually done this. So we have a plant in Chile, and this was spawned from legislation in Chile that says that all tires of 57 inch and up need to be taken care of, repurposed, whatever it may be. They say in Chile they have on the ground 550,000 tons of unused tires. So either customers would bury those or use them for cattle troughs, but there's only so many cattle troughs in the world that you can get out there before you really bury them or burn them. So thermal conversion in the plant that we have set up in Chile, with large kilns, you cut the tire up, you put it in, and through science, which is again, I'm not a scientist, so I'm not gonna say that, but it's really, they take away the oxygen and they use heat to put the tire into three different components. One is oil, the other is steel, and the other is carbon black. So those three things come out of this process. The oil can then be further refined. It can be refined down to as far as you want. So it could actually be used again in your trucks, or it could be used to fire kilns, any of those kind of things. The steel obviously is a simple one. You recycle the steel and it's being used again. And then carbon black, which carbon black can be used for a bunch of different purposes. Mostly we see it in computers and TVs and those kind of things, but also can be used in batteries and those kind of things. So there's, at least then there's a repurposing. So we have a facility in Antofagasta in Chile, which again, being with the world is what it is now, that the opening of that has been delayed a little bit, but I believe it should be this year that this is open. This legislation in Chile starts in 2021, which will require every mining company to get rid of all the tires that they've used. So when we look at this and devulcanization, there's a whole bunch of these burgeoning fields that are coming up about the recycling and the circular economy of tires, and we're happy to be in this space because we look at it in Chile as we are solving a customer problem. The customer now has a problem that they've got a whole bunch of tires on site and they need to get rid of them. Legislation in Canada is a little bit different, where in the West, 57 inch and above, there is no legislation at this time for that. So customers who do come to us to recycle their tires, they're doing that from their own, I don't want to say from their heart, but from their corporate responsibility that they've got tires on the ground, and they at some point they have to get rid of them. So we're there for that, and I think that's what happened in Chile. Is we were proud to be in the space because, again, it does make us a good CSR partner. But I think also we're solving customer problems, and that's really what at the heart of this is what we want to do, and provide a solution for our customers.
Do you think that legislation, somewhere like Chile that's done it, will that? I mean, that will probably eventually spread um, to legislation across everywhere. Is that?
Yeah, we're seeing that, Jared. I think Colombia is already heading down that path of legislation. Australia has been discussing it, I believe. And not to say that all of Canada hasn't, because Ontario has a recycling program as well. So all those tires, they have government accredited recyclers. So the tires in Ontario have to be sent somewhere. So it just, again, it's in Canada, it'll be interesting to see. It'll probably be a province by province legislation. So that may make it difficult. It may make it easy, but I'm going to probably side on the side of difficult, that each province will want to do things their own way. But I think the big part of this is as we move into this world where recycling is not something foreign to any of us, we believe at some point it's probably going to happen.